I want to talk to you about Season-ology Part 2, how to maximize seasons. How to maximize seasons. How to maximize seasons. In the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, from verse 1, I'm going to be reading 1. I want to read to 12 or 11. Just put 12 so in case we'll go over. For everything there was a season and a time for every purpose under heaven. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to pluck up what is planted. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to break down and a time to build up. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to seek and a time to lose. A time to keep and a time to cast away. A time to tear and a time to sow. A time to keep silence and a time to speak. A time to love and a time to hate. A time of war and a time for peace. What gain has the worker from his toil? I have seen the business that God has given to the children of man to be busy with. He has made everything beautiful in its time. Also, he has put eternity into man's heart, yet so that he cannot find out what God has done from the beginning to the end. You see, the rich history of the book of Ecclesiastes is a book that is and should be a standard read for every believer and even unbeliever. It is a book that is written that speaks of the perspective of what happens when you have everything you prayed for and more. It is a book that exposes us to a reality that many may not achieve but dream of achieving. What happens when you get everything you think will make you happy? If I were to ask right now, just happenstance guess, what do you need right now to make you happy? What will be the answer? At least somebody being honest. Would anybody else agree? That, Pastor, I love the Lord, but I'm trying to explain to you that if I had $2 million right now, my faith will increase. I will sow to the church and I will do everything right. It's like me when I was in elementary or no, I was in middle school. I remember telling the Lord, I said, Lord, if you allow me past this test I didn't study for, I will serve you for the rest of my life. Maybe I'm the only one that has ever prayed that prayer. Lord, if you can get me out of this. What happens when you get everything you ever desired? Can you imagine that? Some of y'all are like, stop tempting me, Pastor. Could you imagine an individual that literally said, everything I set my eyes to get, I got? Everything. Everything you can ever imagine. In other words, as long as he can think about it, he got it. Whether he wanted an elevator that he can enter that would take him from Dallas to Houston in 3 seconds, he got it. Everything he could ever imagine that could be done on earth, my man's got it. That's the reason why I think the book of Ecclesiastes is so important for both believers and unbelievers. Because many times for the believer, when we have God, we become more depressed because when we don't see our needs being met, but our spiritual life is functioning, we say, I love God, but if I had this, it will make my relationship better. But yet the ones who have money are dying. The ones who have money are suffering. It's almost like people who are like, man, I love that baby. That baby is so cute. I can't wait to have that baby. And then folks who got babies are finding looking for babysitters. They're saying, Lord, if you can send me a righteous and holy babysitter, that I can just drop this baby for a couple years. And sorry, maybe that's just us. But the point is, we want these things so bad. What happens when you get it? What happens when you get that which you pray for? I remember a young lady a couple years ago. She wanted to be a first lady so bad. I want to be a first lady. I want to be married to a pastor. Any ladies in here want to be a first lady? I do want you to know that when you decide to be a first lady, you are just a first lady. There are other ladies in the church. There are other people in the church. There are other things in the church that will now grab your husband's attention. And being a first lady is not you being happy and being on the stage. Is you having to watch your husband go preach and go teach and cast out demons and pray and pray. And then by the time you get ready to go to a date, there's a church. And then you can't really be free. You can't post anything you want to post on social media. That dress that's so cute on you is tempting. Keep that to your husband. But you want to be a first lady. I want to be a pastor. I want God to use me to preach. What happens when you finally get there? And you realize that preaching is only 2% of what we do. That as a matter of fact, this is the easiest part of pastoring. So sweet and easy. All you got to do is study and be in your overflow. God give you a sermon in 5 minutes. It's easy. This is out of my flow. What do you do when you get what you want? Well, this man got it. He got everything you could imagine. And in his quest to chase all these things, he came to a realization that would tear the heart of anybody who's still on a quest to find what they think will make them happy. He said it's all vapor. It's all air. Who can grab hold of air? No? He said it's a chase of the wind. That all of this stuff is completely meaningless. Yet there's nothing new under the sun. It's all meaningless. And so he says the only thing you can hold on to is a sure thing that matters, which is God. And he concludes his statement in the closing statement of this book in Ecclesiastes 12 and 13. He says the end of the matter is this. All has been heard. Fear God and keep his commandment. For this is the whole duty of man. For God will bring every deed into judgment with every secret thing, whether good or evil. I want to say why this is important. There is nobody that you want to receive advice from that has not been where they're trying to advise you to go. You know, for many of us, it's like somebody who's single telling you how to be married. You just got to be patient with him. You got to be patient with her. You ain't had to live with nobody for that long. Wake up to them and have to be with them. But you got keys for a relationship. It's always interesting when people who have not been through what you're going through try to teach you what you ought to do with your life. This is how you pastor. Have you ever had to lead a group of people consistently for 7 years? Have you ever had to deal with people walking out on you at whatever time they so desire? And you can't use the last person to judge the next person. And so it's very annoying whenever somebody who has not been through where you're trying to go try to give you advice. And so it's so interesting that God would allow a man who has been through everything you're trying to achieve tell you that the end of the matter is fear God and keep his commandment. So you can't say, man, you don't even know what it's like. You ain't never wanted nothing. I have. I actually wanted everything and got it. Man, you ain't even had no money. Actually, I have. Man, you only have one wife. Technically, I had 700 and 300 concubines. And so God allowed somebody who has experienced every facet of desire the human body can physically imagine to tell you that all of that means nothing. It would be different if it was somebody who doesn't understand. Man, you never had a business. Man, you never had this or that. But God allowed somebody who overstands to tell you this is the conclusion of the matter. Fear God and keep his commandment. He said, I'm going to save you time. I want to save you time and energy. There is nothing new under the sun. The conclusion of the matter is fear God. And so, as he uses this book of Ecclesiastes to voice out his frustration, I wanted us to draw wisdom from his revelation of time. He started off by saying to everything there was a season and a time for every purpose under heaven. And so I want to give you three things that we can extrapolate from this text. Number one, to everything. To everything. If you're taking notes, write that down. Over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be encouraging you to bring some physical Bibles, pen and paper. Everything I told you last week includes everything. Number two, he said season and time. Number three, for every purpose. To everything, there was a season and a time. I told you that word there, season, is zaman, which means an appointed occasion. The word there, time, speaks of duration. You can also say when. Now. And so when it says for every purpose, now you read that as there is an appointed season and a duration for that season for every purpose under heaven. In other words, to every season is a duration for that season, and when that duration is missed, you miss that season. I told you last week that the grace for the season is the time you have to maximize that season. I gave you an example that was found in the book of John chapter 5. I want to read that for you again. John 5, 1-5. It says, after this there was a feast of the Jews, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. Now there is at Jerusalem by the sheep market a pool which is called in the Hebrew tongue Bethesda, having 5 porches. In these lay a great multitude of impotent folk, of blind, halt, withered, waiting for the moving of the water. For an angel went down at a certain season into the pool and troubled the water. Whosoever then first after the troubling of the water stepped in was made whole of whatsoever disease he had. I told you that this was a perfect example of the relationship between season and time. An appointed season and a duration. Somebody say duration. And there was a certain season that an angel would come, and the duration and time for that season was calculated by humans. When one human came in, that time then came up. And whosoever sought to be healed would have to wait for the next Season. Somebody say season. Now, the best way to express this thought is through the Greeks' understanding and the breakdown of time. I told you last week that the Greeks believed in two major definitions and examples of time, which are chronos and kairos. Chronos is quantitative. Kairos Chronos deals with the passage of time. It's a sequential movement of time. It is our seconds, your minutes, your hours, your days. It's just a normal passage of time as we deal with it. And of course, Kairos is an opportune time. It's qualitative. It is seasons within time that sometimes are unplanned but pivotal. And so, to properly maximize our purpose within earth, we must understand season-ology, the study of seasons. We must understand the correlation between seasons and times. Everyone uses chronos and function within chronos, but kairos is never planned, and many times kairos is unexpected. I gave you a lot of time yesterday. Last week, I gave you some foundational background on understanding season and time. I told you that there were 4 keys about time. What was key number 1? Key number 1, somebody said it. God created time. He's outside of time. I told you the book of Genesis 1:1 says, in the beginning, God, which means that God created time. He functions out of it. What was number 2? God honors time and created us to function around it. What's number 3? Awesome. Time was given for the fulfillment of man's purpose, of God's purpose. What's number 4? Time has no preference. I told you that if it's 8 o'clock now, it's going to be 8 o'clock for you. If it's 9 o'clock for me, it's going to be 9 o'clock for you. Time does not give more time to people who have money. A statement that's been going on for a long time is this statement that says, time is money. Time is money. Who believes that? I feel like y'all like he about to trick us, huh? Who don't believe that? Why? I like that. Why? I like that. You see, if you had an opportunity and God forbid you were given 1 day to live, 1 day to live, and you will be given $3 trillion, but you only have 1 day. Or you're given nothing and you live out the rest of your days. What would you choose? Huh? That means time is not money. It does not have the same value as money. Because if you had to choose between more money or more time, when given a short time, you will choose time. Hezekiah did not pray for more money. Because there are some things, unfortunately, that money cannot solve. How do I know that? There are many of you who have parental issues, but you came from families that had money. There are people who are angry with a parent that that showed up financially but not physically. Time is not money. Hmm. And so I told you about the need for maximizing that seasoning time. I gave you 5 seasons that you had to be alerted about. 5 seasons. What was season number 1? Family, okay. Season number 2? Season number 3? Season number 4? Season number 5? Man, listen, I don't know who got this church. I love this church. I'm telling you right now, I will attend Faith Field if I was not pastoring. All right. And so one keynote that was taken from the first 12 verses that I want to harp on today within the next 15 minutes is verse 11. He had made everything beautiful in its time. He has made everything beautiful in its time. I want you to write this down. The beauty of the season is found in its time. The beauty of the season is found in its time. The beauty of the season. You see, many times we do things out of season, and what was meant to be beautiful end up looking ugly. The beauty of a season, the beauty of an appointed occasion, it's found in its time. It is beautiful for a woman to have a child after 9 months of pregnancy. It's beautiful. Somebody's due like 48 hours that's sitting in this church. Hopefully we don't have a faith-filled baby in the church, but that would be amazing too. The beauty of that season is in its time. And so when something is done out of timing, it's not beautiful. When you do things out of its time, it's not beautiful. A mother becoming a mother at 12 years old is not beautiful. A father becoming a father at 15 years old. I work in a school and I see what was meant to be beautiful, but the time. He has made everything beautiful in its time. Time. A child born to a couple out of wedlock, and now son has to grow up without father, or daughter has to grow up without mother or father. And yes, the couple might love each other, but now y'all in separate homes. And so daddy gets this child in the weekend, and then mommy gets the child in the weekend, and the child never grows up seeing family. It's beautiful. If it was in its time, see? A father that's alive but absent. A mother that's alive but absent. And so you can't say, well, my dad is dead. He's not. Just maybe dead to you. Because it's the time. That season would have been beautiful if it was the right time. My plants in my backyard. I'm going to keep venting about these plants. Every time I see them, I regret spending the $95.67. They're still there. I'm praying that the Lord would turn around some things. It was beautiful, but the time passed. And now what was meant to be beautiful looks ugly. He has made everything beautiful in its time. Whenever you're dealing with an ugly situation, sometimes it is indicative of you doing things in the wrong timing. You see, whenever Kairos is not maximized, the result is an ugly situation that was meant to be beautiful. Too many times we neglect the importance of season, and for your life, there were seasons that were meant to be beautiful, but what makes them beautiful, it's it being done within its time. It is beautiful that you will go to school and you graduate from school within the allotted time that you had. It is beautiful when things are done within the right time. It is beautiful for a child to stay in their father's house until they are ready for marriage. Marriage was the only biblical reason that the Bible gave for a child to leave their parents' house. And then we made it 18. And so now we have so many kids without parental support, and the family call it letting them learn. You should have taught them. You see, when something is not done in its time, it looks ugly. It looks ugly. You see, we have to study what is our relationship with time. What is your relationship with time? I remember in the old house that we were in, I don't know, many of us have this stuff. Now we have a gas-powered water heater, which I totally regret because that water bill is very not good. And so when you have a regular water heater, something typically happens. Many of us who use hot water to shower in the summer and the winter, I'm still praying for you. But whenever we have those things, you realize that when you turn that hot water on, after a while, the hot water get cold. Don't it? And if it does, that means the time when the water was hot was the time you should have finished your business. And so when you're now sitting there in that cold water, it doesn't look beautiful anymore. Some of y'all want to jump out. Because within that time allotted, you should have got done with what you needed to get done in that season. Timing matters. Write that down. The duration matters. When? Now matters. I told you last week that the grace for the season is found in its time. For you to maximize seasons, you must have a healthy relationship with time. The book of Psalms 90 and 12, we see this prayer. He says, so teach us to number our days that we may apply our hearts unto wisdom. And my question for you this morning is, do you number your days? Are you aware of the season that you are in? Sometimes you have to ask yourself a question, is this the right time for me to be in a relationship? Is this the right season for me to be married? Is this the right season for me not to go back to school or to go back to school? Is this the right time for me to start a family? Is this the right time for me to procrastinate serving God? One season that I did not give you last week, I want to give it to you today, which will be our sixth season. It's the season of service to God. You see, the writer concluded in Ecclesiastes 12 and 13. He says, this is the end of the matter. All has been heard. Fear God and keep his commandments. For this is the whole duty of man. For God will bring every deed into judgment with every secret thing, whether good or evil. The book of Hebrews 9 and 27. It says, and as it is appointed unto man once to die, but after this, the judgment. You see, you make something that was meant to be beautiful look ugly when it's out of its season, how ugly is it for people in hell to glorify God? How ugly is it for the rich man to be in hell and he's begging for a drip of water? There was a season that you have allocated for you to take God seriously. And when that season is neglected, it is appointed unto men once to die, and after this, the judgment. You don't get to judgment and plead your case. Judgment is not for you to plead your case, it is for you to receive a sentence. Either you get a sentence of well done, my good and faithful servant, or you get a sentence of depart from me, I never knew you. No matter how good of a negotiator you are, you can't negotiate with God. There was a season and a time coming where Christ is coming back soon. And you have this season allocated. It is appointed unto men once to die. And after this, there's this season that you have. And the duration that you have is your lifespan. Are you procrastinating taking God serious? That when the time has finally come and judgment is before you, would you say, God, I don't know? There is nobody in hell that did not have an opportunity to be saved. We can have a theological agreement about that. Just not with me. Because you have to understand that in the righteousness of God, in his will and in his desire, he does not wish that any should perish. The problem is we choose not to accept him within the duration that we have. The rich man was in hell, and he looked up and see Abraham, and he says, God, come on, man, can you at least send Abraham or send somebody? And God said, hold on. I've sent people. You just didn't listen. Because you probably thought you had more time. Many times we put God to the side because we think God is something that we can serve in our own time. It is an ugly thing for somebody to recognize that heaven and hell is real while in hell. That is the worst place to receive that kind of revelation. To say, oh, I know hell is real. I just can't get out of it. I know hell is real. I just can't leave this place. You can have the season of family, wealth, health, relationships. But if you miss the season of serving God, everything else is irrelevant. You cannot afford to miss the season of serving God because he has paid the price already. It would be unjust for you to live in sin and go to heaven when Christ was on the cross and said, Father, Father, why hast thou forsaken me? For the punishment he had to bear, it would be unjust for you to live the way you want to live and live vicariously and still believe that you would just land in heaven because of grace. The very point of Jesus dying is so the route that you were already headed could be averted. He says, for God so loved the world that he gave us his only begotten son so that we may not perish. In other words, you were already heading to perishing. That before Christ, hell was your destination already. And so he sent Christ to die for your sins and mine. So to give you an option to say now, life or death, which is where you were already headed. And so to refuse to accept God is an automatic acceptance of death. I want to explain it. That to the refusal to accept God is an automatic, there is no middle ground. It's almost like somebody saying, I don't really believe in God, I'm not spiritual. I'm going to tell you right now. Your lack of belief in God does not give you a pass from hell or heaven. The refusal to accept God is an automatic acceptance to hell. It's giving your life. He says the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. John 10. But I have come that you may have life and have it more abundantly. So in this season that you have, I've come so you can have life. If you miss this season, you will not miss hell. There's no negotiating with God about that. And so it is very important for us to maximize on the season with God in taking God seriously. That this relationship with him is not one that we joke or meddle with. That you have to take God seriously because you don't know the season or when your time will be up. And so I have to serve him every day like it's my last. And as it appointed unto man, once to die, but after this to judgment. You see, God has made everything beautiful within his time. And unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, sometimes the ugliness of our current situation is doing things in the wrong time. Now, in 2 minutes, how then can you make sure things are beautiful in their time? How can you make sure things are beautiful in their time? As I'm writing these words, I want you to say it out loud. Now let's say it together. Say it again. You need vision. Look, in teaching on the cost of discipleship, Jesus used an example that we can glean from that speaks of vision. In the book of Luke, chapter 14, from verse 28 to 33. Luke 14, 28 to 33. It says, for which of you, desiring to build a tower, does not first sit down and count the cost, whether he has enough to complete it? Otherwise, when he has laid a foundation and is not able to finish it, all who see it will begin to mock him, saying, this man began to build and was not able to finish. Or what king, going out to encounter another king in war, will not sit down first and deliberate whether he is able with 10,000 to meet him who comes against him with 20,000? And if not, while the other is yet a great way off, he sends a delegation and asks for terms of peace. So therefore, any one of you who does not renounce all that he has cannot be my disciple. We can glean from the wisdom of God in even teaching about the cost of discipleship. Jesus was teaching them for context sake. You got to count the cost before you follow me. And he uses the wisdom of the word. He says, yo, who in their right mind would try to build a house and not count the cost of what it would take to build it? Who will go into a war and you got 10,000 men and you're getting ready to go in war against somebody who got 20,000, and you start the war, you make the announcement, you get your people ready, and then when you see the person coming with their army, you go, oh, we got to make peace. He says, who does that? In other words, that's you should know this already. That before you build, you need to have vision. You know what vision is? Vision is starting after you finish. Oh, Holy Ghost. Vision is starting after you finish. Let me explain. Genesis 1:26. Let us make man in our own image and likeness so they can dominate and rule over the earth. When I finish my plan and my desire for man, so God created man. That real vision is I have the whole plan laid out. And when I got the planning done all the way to its completion, then I can start. That to really have vision, where you are trying to go must already be completed in your plans. That although we are here, but where Faith-Filled Church is going, it's already completed. that you have to see the future so you can plan in the now. And start in the now. But you need vision. Vision is the ability to see what you can't see right now. You see, vision is what shapes our decision. For some of you who came to church today, it is the vision of coming to church that allowed you to not stop at the mall before you came here. Because you had a vision that I have to be in church. And so that vision shaped your decision-making skills. That vision kept you focused. Vision is the thing that you need to be focused. There is no better people that have vision. All my parents in here, you know it, than a child. God, if I had time, I'll bring my son up here to teach a class on vision. When his mind is set on something, no matter what else you give him, that thing that he wants, his mind is there and he would do anything to get there. I told him last night, I said, son, me and you going to play the PS5 before I go to bed. And then one of the managers in Panera Bread called me and said, hey, Josh, we got some donations. If you want to pick up for the church tomorrow, I said, yes. So it was like 9:30 p.m. I said, son, you want to ride with me? I told my wife, I said, baby, you want to ride with me? And she told me no. And I begged her like 3 times. I said, babe, you should come with me. Like, it's nighttime. Like, she was like, you know when wives start asking you questions like, you want me to come? I was like, well, I asked. That's what that means. And so she didn't come with me. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to make it into a daddy son date. I'm going to take my son, and we're going to go out. So I put him in the car seat and all that stuff. And we get in there, and I pick up the bread. As I pick up the bread, we get into our neighborhood, and our son, he's so fascinated with driving. And so I parked when we were like maybe 2 minutes away from my house. I parked, and I said, okay, son, you know what? Mommy's not here. You can sit in the front seat next to Dad. I did. Oh, well. We're right around the corner of the house. And so he's like, he's always dreamt of doing that. He gets tired of his car seat. And so we sit in the front, me and him talking, and he's asking me all these different questions as to how does the phone connect to the map. And I'm just sitting there talking to him. We just bonding, having man conversation, And so we did all of that. And then we get to the house. We get to the house, and then when we got to the house, there was something he did that I did not like. I told him, I said, son, I've been dealing with him on paying attention to your environment. And so while I was there, he had my phone. My phone was connected to the Apple AirPlay, and so it's showing the screen on there. And I said, son, put daddy's phone down, and I want you to look out. The reason why I put you in the front is to give you vision. That I want you to see things from daddy's perspective. I didn't put you in the front because I wanted you to be here. I put you in the front because I want you to have vision. So I want you to pay attention to your environment. And he's like, okay. And so I put the phone down, and then he grabbed the phone again. And I looked at him, and I snatched the phone from his hand. And I said, you know what? Because of that, when we get home, you're going to bed. He had a fit. He said, but. I said, what is it, son? What is it? So we get down to the house, and he's crying, just letting it all out. And of course, he knows whenever he's crying, it's hard for me to hear. And so I just wait for him to get done. And so I'm looking at him while he's laying out his emotions. And so when he get done, I'm just standing there, pausing, and quiet, and let him cry out. And when he get done crying, I said, okay, now can you talk? And he said, okay. He said, what's that? That you told me we played the game before I go to bed, and then I go to the store, and I come. And he's telling me my plans. I'm looking at him like, this young man is smart. I'm like, good God almighty. This is a business boy. And he's like, yeah, I go to the store, and I come back to the store, and I used it to go to bed, and I don't want to go to bed. I want to play the game. And I looked at him intently in his eyes. And I said, what would Jesus do? And so I said, let's go ahead, let's play the game. We'll play the game. And then he was so happy, and he was so excited because I kept a promise. But he was excited because the vision that he had, regardless of how many different locations we went to, that vision never changed. In his mind, I'm going to play this game, even though he does not know how to play the game. He just wants to press button and have fun because that's his way he's bonding with his father. He wanted that because his mind was fixed on that. If you don't have nothing that your mind is fixed on, you're headed nowhere. The steps of a good man are ordered by you got to have your mind fixed on something. Where are you headed? I want to give you a passage of scripture real quick and we're going to close. You see, to create vision, you need to discern your current season. To know where you want to go. You need a 30-year plan, 20-year plan, 10-year plan. You see, one of the things that made Jesus' ministry effective was his ability to understand vision and why he came. He couldn't be distracted by the cares of this world because he had a vision and an end goal. In John 9:4, look what he says. I must work the works of him that sent me while it is day. The night cometh when no man can work. That means even in his plan, Jesus had a plan for the night. You see, the night was just not a literal day and night like how we think of it. The night was the next season that was coming. He had a plan for his next season. He had an exit plan. Many times he would tell the disciples, hey, y'all, what y'all tripping about? If I don't go, the comforter would not come. That before the foundations of the earth, we already had a plan and a vision that I will come. The lamb that was slain before the foundations of the world is me. That before I took my first breath, there was a 33-year-old plan that I had to execute. And so he had to work the works of him that sent him. While it is day, the night coming when no man can work. The way you can be effective in your life, now please hear me, I'm speaking to saved believers. There is no need for plans if you have not accepted Jesus Christ as your Lord and your Savior. He says, many are the plans in a man's heart, but only the purposes of God shall prevail. And so I have to balance my teaching and my preaching because I have to be aware that I'm not always teaching to unbelievers. And one of the biggest triggers I've always had as a Christian believer is many times we don't have teachings for people who are saved. And so you can come here every day and I can tell you he died and I can tell you all that, and that's good. But what happens if you know that he died and you already accepted him? And so this teaching that I'm giving you now, I have to make a distinction. This teaching I'm giving you now is for the saved believer on how you can maximize your time as a saved believer. Okay? And so you need to have a vision for where you are headed. Even for my married folks, you need a vision for your marriage. We spoke to a married couple the other day, and yesterday, and I began to talk to him about this concept of vision and purpose. What is the vision? What is your 25-year vision? That by the time you are 70, what plan do you have? By the time you're 40, 50, 30, 20, what plan? If you're going to be in a relationship, if you're dating, what is the vision for the day? Where are y'all going? Where are you going with this relationship? Hey, baby, how long are we going to date? How long? What is our dating plan? What's the exit strategy? When you plan on proposing? When are we going to get married? When are we going to have kids? How do we want our kids to be raised? What school do we want our kids to go to? What college would they go to? What is the plan for the future? You need a 30-year plan for your life at the minimum. Where are you going to be in 30 years? Because that where will shape your decision. My friends are governed by my vision. My decision is governed by my vision. Who I associate myself with is guided by my vision. Jesus had a vision, and it determined who he chose to be his apostles and disciples. I got to choose me a Judas because I need somebody to fulfill the word that was said, that he who sat with me in table has betrayed me. So I need a Judas on my team. I need a Peter on my team. I need a Matthew on my team. I need an Andrew. I need James on my team. I need a team. And so your association can only be determined by your vision. In other words, if you know where you are going, you know who you need to be on your team. I'll close with this. If you're planning to go to Austin, let me put it this way. If you're looking to go right across the street, what would be your normal mode of transportation? A car, walk, bus. If I told you right now that I wanted you to go to the children's church in the back, what would you get in the car? You wouldn't, because you can't drive in here. At least not now. Right? And so when you have a vision of where you're going, it determines your mode of transportation. If I told you I wanted you to go to New York, your first thought would not be to walk there. You'll begin to think, should I get on a flight? What flight should I get on? What airline should I go to? And so vision determines decision, but vision also determines plans and strategies. That when you have a vision, it determines who your friends are. It determines which couples you hang out with. It determines what church you even go to. It determines where you serve. Because there has to be a vision. Everything is led by vision. And so, to maximize season-ology, you need a vision. People without vision make premature decisions. My business owners, what is your vision for your business? Where do you see it going in 25 years? Is there a 25-year plan for it? How many people do you want to help? I remember speaking to a group of kids, and I told them, I said, hey, I'm on a mission to help 1 million people. And they're like, what? Hey, just 1 million. Just speak to 1 million. Because that's step number 1. What is the vision for your life? That will determine your relationship with time. When you have a vision, you will honor and respect time and seasons. It has been a privilege talking to you. I believe in this season, God is calling us to have a deep reverence and respect for time. T-I-M-E. We need to honor and respect time. The way to maximize your season is vision. If I have a vision that one day I want to be with my Father in heaven, it will govern how I live my life now on earth. You need vision. Vision will determine what kind of friends you hang out with and what you do. And so it's my prayer as a church that as God is growing us, shaping us, building us, that we are a well-rounded church. The church that would do a 10-hour prayer, and then on Sunday you're hearing about vision. That you can be fully well-rounded. Remember, I talked about this in wisdom. You remember? That the discovery of wisdom is you have the power, all right? You got the character, but you need wisdom too. God is calling us to be well-rounded spiritual people. That you're not just all here, and then you're just bad here. But when you're well-rounded, you love the Lord, you serve the Lord, and you know what He has called you to accomplish on earth. Now you need vision so you can accomplish it. May God bless you. May God keep you. May God cause His face to shine upon you. May God give you peace. In Jesus' name, amen.